Hi, and welcome to Writing Essentials with Mrs. Benson. Today, we are going to be tackling a very important topic in the world of essay writing, which is the thesis. So let's get started. A thesis, what is it? A thesis statement is a complete sentence that contains one main idea. It is often a point or an idea that you want to argue or support in an essay. A thesis statement that contains subpoints also helps a reader know how the essay will be organized. So, whereas thesis statements don't have to contain subpoints, they often do in order to help the reader understand where the paper is going. So, the thesis statement, in a nutshell, explains to a reader the main idea of the essay and the writer's opinion on that idea. Metaphorically speaking, I like to say that the thesis is the roadmap for the essay. And we often find the thesis statement as being best placed at the end of the introductory paragraph. So this sentence really tells the reader what he or she can expect as they continue reading the essay. For the basics of a thesis statement, as I've mentioned before, usually one sentence, once in a while could be two, but generally speaking, aim for one, and the last sentence of the introductory paragraph. Now, here's something interesting that you might not have thought about before when you think about a thesis. A thesis is a claim, a pushing of an argument that could be debated, could be contradicted or argued against. So when you're presenting something in a thesis, there's a general assumption that there is someone out there who thinks otherwise or who might argue otherwise. So if you're writing a thesis that is stating something informational, it may not seem as generally argued, but there is the idea when you're presenting a thesis of opinion embedded in the idea without having to say it's your opinion. It's inherent to the statement. It often has subpoints or subtopics, and we expect the essay to follow with evidence to support this argument. Everything in the essay should kind of be on the same topic and same main idea. It's just further development and elaboration on one's opinion or one's statement. And the last point here is very significant. Though a thesis is your opinion, your evaluation of something, your argument for something, you want to keep the I out of it. So you don't have to say, I believe this is the theme of the story, or in my opinion, this is an important character in the story. Just state it. You'll have a lot more authority and buy-in without sounding wishy-washy. Okay. All right. Let's go deeper into creating a thesis statement. So in your thesis statement, as an English teacher, I've seen this over the years from students where they go very literally and obviously with spelling out what an essay will be covering. For example, saying lines like, "This essay will discuss," or "I am going to write about," or "that you will read in this essay about." So we want to try to avoid those kind of statements that are too obvious, and try to write a thesis statement that captures your reader's attention without announcing the main topic in a very obvious form. It just has more finesse and strength than the other. So let's look at these examples below. We want to avoid this. In this essay, I'm going to discuss the effects of long-term drug abuse. Rather than that, it sounds a little bit stronger to say long-term drug use can have disastrous effects on one's marriage, career, and health. There's just more oomph in it, and it sounds more powerful and believable, and you've gotten my attention in a stronger way because you have much more said in that thesis example. Okay, so we want to aim for this style. Avoid the I am going to write about statements. And then there's this idea of subpoints. So it is not a 100% always necessary item to have subtopics or subpoints in a thesis. So you don't feel like you have to do it all the time. However, I do want to spell it out here because it is often or can be a very useful way for your reader to see what lies ahead, to have a sort of underlying understanding of where you're going and what you're going to present. So for example, see these two theses and then just decide for yourself which one you think would have a better impact in an essay, because neither is wrong. They just sort of work a little bit differently. Okay, so look at the first one. The large influx of people to California has had major effects on the state. Okay, so in this example, no subtopics are named. And then we have the second example. The large influx of people to California has had major effects on the ability of the state to provide housing, electricity, and jobs for all residents. So I'm given quite a bit more information in this second example. I now know where the essay is going to go. I can imagine that this essay is going to talk about housing, electricity, and jobs when discussing this idea of population increase in California. So now I'm more aware of the big ideas for the essay. Whereas in the first topic, the first thesis, I know the main topic. I know that I'm going to see that there are effects, but I'm kind of clueless as to what those effects are until I get into the essay. In the second example, I have a sort of a hint or an idea to those effects. Now, a thesis statement does state an opinion or attitude about something, okay? So good thesis statements often express a writer's opinion on a particular topic. And this makes the thesis statement more specific, and it requires the writer to explain and develop and provide evidence for that opinion in the essay. So let's take a look at these examples below. Similar to the last slide, Cancun is a popular vacation spot in Mexico. This doesn't really feel like an opinion, right? This seems to be just expressing a fact, something that could be backed up with evidence of, the amount of tourism in that city. So this thesis statement doesn't really give the writer much to develop or explain or provide evidence for. There certainly is the opportunity for evidence, but it isn't as complex. The second one gives me a little bit more. Cancun is one of the best vacation spots in Mexico because of its comfortable climate, beautiful beaches, and proximity to some well-known archaeological sites. This thesis statement is better because it expresses how the writer feels about Cancun, and it allows sort of a roadmap for how the writer is going to explain, give rationale behind the statement of it being one of the best vacation spots. There will be people who disagree and feel that other locations are the best vacation spots. So it adds more interest and buy-in for the reader to see, I wonder why this person feels this way and what proof they have of that. And maybe it will change my mind or solidify how I feel already. Since the thesis statement is the main idea for the entire essay, it should express a complete thought. So you don't want to have some kind of just buzzword idea or fragment as your thesis. Your thesis should be one of your best sentences because it is the most essential sentence to understand the point of your essay. So look at these examples below. If I have at the end of my intro paragraph or at some point in my essay just the idea, the sport of cross country running, like, ooh, I want to write my essay on cross country running. This isn't really a thesis, because what about cross country running? So what? What's the big idea about cross country running? So to have a thesis, you need to have some sort of inherent opinion about it, a complete thought, a complete sentence. So look at this example. The sport of cross country running has allowed me to get in better shape, be disciplined, and meet some interesting people. Now I can see a lot more as to where you're going with the topic of cross country running. You can always see if you have a strong enough thesis by trying to test how debatable your thesis is by coming up with an antithesis or an antithesis or the opposite claim. This will allow you to consider ways of addressing the anticipated objections to your thesis and have a stronger position. You can revise the wording of your thesis. So for example, this working thesis statement states school uniforms should not be required, but it doesn't really give any why. And so the antithesis would be school uniforms should be required. And there isn't really a why either. So to me, I was able to get an opposite, but it doesn't seem that strong because on either side, I don't understand the why. So ask yourself why your topic should and should not occur. And this will demand more explanation and a stronger thesis. Okay. I just wanted to give you an in-context example to kind of close us out here. And here is a paragraph that's not really a literary analysis paragraph. It's more an argumentative writing example, but this will give you an idea of what a thesis sounds like. So here's my introduction. America is well known across the globe for its diversity. People from all over the world migrate to the United States just to be a part of this international society. It is common knowledge that equality and individualism are a part of America's famous history. This fact is something that most Americans take pride in. However, the individuality of a future America may be at risk due to the education system. A rule that would require students to wear uniforms to school is threatening student individuality. School uniforms should not be required because they discourage individuality, prevent responsible decision-making, and encourage conformity as a means to harmony. So that is an example of an introductory paragraph. And the first sentence in red here would be the point at which I transition to the actual topic of this essay, which is the school uniforms. And then the last sentence here is your thesis. It's very clear. School uniforms should not be required and why. There are 3 reasons why this writer feels that school uniforms are a poor choice. The subpoints in the thesis are presented with parallel structure, so it helps the reader really easily understand what will come in the essay. And the thesis contains the main idea. It totally sets the tone and controls the content of the essay. I don't expect this essay to be about any other topic than school uniforms. So to sum up, a good thesis states the main idea of the essay in a complete sentence, not a question. 2 is at the end of an introduction. It's the last sentence in an introduction. 3, it does state an opinion or attitude on a topic, but it doesn't use the words "in my opinion" or something like that. 4, it does not just state the topic by itself, but it comes in a complete thought. And 5, it often has subpoints when applicable. All right. And then lastly, I want to finish with a note. Sometimes we don't write full essay responses. We're called to write just a 1 paragraph or maybe 2 paragraph response. If you're writing a 1 paragraph only response, your thesis will serve sort of as that topic sentence for your paragraph. So rather than being at the end of an intro, it'll be at the beginning of your paragraph because you're limited to just a 1 paragraph response. So keep that in mind when you find yourself in those scenarios. All right. Thanks for listening to me and my discussion of your thesis and writing a thesis. Good luck writing yours, and I'll see you next time.